So we struggled a little bit with the questions that required us to take what actually was the answer of the question and to come up with what the problem was. So another way of thinking about this is, and I don't want to use the exact one that you guys had on the test, because the one on the quiz, some of you guys need to do some revisions or some corrections. So I'm not going to use the exact one. I'm just going to give you an example that's kind of like it. So somebody give me a 2-digit number with a remainder. Yes, sir.
6, 10.
What?
6 remainder 10?
How do you get that?
How about let's go 10 remainder 6. So a good way to, it's not working. Oh, it's not showing the whole screen. That's the problem. So it's, let me back it up here. On mine it's showing the whole screen, but on yours it's not. So let's go out on our eZoom here. There we go. All right, so we've got 10 remainder 6 is the answer. So a good way to think about this is, if 10 remainder 6 is the answer, what is the problem? So the first thing I needed to do is I needed to sort of figure out, okay, well, what is the mathematical equation that is going to give me an answer of 10 remainder 6? So I got to think through this really carefully, because not everything is going to work. But there's a huge range of possibilities of equations that could work for this. For example, let's say I had 36 pencils, and I had to share them between 3 students.
Oh, I get it.
So I would have 36 then, divided by 3 is going to give me 10 remainder 6, right? Because 30 divided by 3 is 10. I have 6 left over. It's going to give me 10 remainder 6. That's one possible expression that I could use. Another example. Yes, sir?
Can't the remainder be bigger than the dividing?
Can it be remainder?
No, wait. I mean, isn't it? It's not silly for the remainder to be bigger than the dividing.
You're correct. Okay, so this is a common error, and I'm glad you caught that, because this is actually a common error that a lot of people made. Because 36 divided by 3 isn't really 10 remainder 6, is it? And this was a really common thing that some folks did. Because 36 divided by 3 is actually what, Jacob?
12.
It's actually 12. So we've got to find something that is going to give us an answer that's going to make sense. Now, some of you, you had equations that worked, but they didn't give you the exact answer that you needed. Because the question here is, if 10 remainder 6 is the answer, what is the problem? So can we think of something that's going to give us an answer of 10 remainder 6? So another way of looking at this is, if I have this number here and I divided it by some other number here, it's going to give me 10 remainder 6. So that's another way of kind of looking at it. And these would be 2 different numbers in here. What is going to give me that? All right, so let's go through my example here. Let's say, for example, I had, and I just sort of figured this out. I was sort of like, okay, let's say I had to divide something. Maybe I had a bunch of, I don't know, maybe I had a bunch of, well, donuts doesn't work because the context here is important. It's got to be something that I can't easily chop up. Let's say I had a bunch of people. Can't chop up people. I had a bunch of people that I had to organize into teams of 12 because I'm organizing a basketball tournament, and at the school are intramural basketball teams, and I want teams of 12, and I have so many students who've signed up, and I've got to figure out how many full teams I can get. So let's say I had teams of 12, and I know that in the end, I'm going to have 10 teams. So 10, I'm just trying to do my simple math here. I know that I'm going to have 120, but I also know I'm going to have 6 left over. So that's going to give me to 126. So my question is this. If I had 126 students and I had to organize into equal teams, fair teams of 12, how many teams? Okay. I'm not going to say, well, I've got 12. It's not going to be, well, I've got 10 point something teams. I've got enough for 10 teams. So what the reverse math there would be is that I've got 126 divided by 10 divided by 12, because I have 12 people per team. That's going to give me 10 remainder 6. What do I do with the remainder 6? Well, I don't have another full team. I can't have half a team. So I would probably have to sprinkle them on some of the other teams. But at the end of the day here, this is an answer that's going to make sense. And all I've done is I've sort of thought about it backwards, beginning with my answer. What numbers are going to plug in here? And we have to remember that the context of the question is really important, because we talked about this, about what we're going to do with that remainder. Are we going to ditch it? Are we going to express it as a fraction? Or are we going to express it as a decimal? If I wanted to express this remainder as a decimal, what did I divide it by? Well, I divided it by 12 in here, and it was 126. So it'd be my remainder here could be expressed as 6 divided by 12, or 6 over 12, which is equal to what as a decimal?
1 over 2.
It's equal to 1/2, which is
0.5.
0.5. So I could also express my answer as 10.5, but I can't really have 10.5 teams. What do I do with half a team? I need full teams. So in the context of this question,
You put them in other teams.
you could, but in the context of this question, it doesn't make sense to have half a team. Now, somebody give me an example of I'm just going to provide, let's say my answer is 7.5. My answer, if my answer is 7.5, what is the problem? Again, I got to go backwards here. I've got a number divided by another number equals 7.5. Now, some people got away with, on this question on the quiz, they didn't even really make it a division question, but it didn't say how to make it a division question. So some people were a little bit tricky, and they made it maybe an adding question or a subtraction question. So they might have made it some number x take away y equals 7.5, and that was okay. Some people did that, and I actually marked it right because I went and looked at the instructions, and there was nothing saying you couldn't. So that was smart of those people. But
Who did that?
But the idea here was to use what we know about fractions and decimals. So I'm going to try and reverse engineer this. What divided by something is going to give me 7.5? Now I know that 0.5, I got to use what I know here. I know that 0.5 is a half. So if I'm smart, I'll make a question where something is divided by 2. And the easiest one to do is 15 in this case. 15 divided by 2 is going to give me 17.5. So, and it's going to be, again, 7.5, sorry. So again, the context is important. So I need to be asking a problem about something that we're going to actually cut up. So students here, we're not going to have half a student or half a team. We're going to cut something up. I went to Starbucks this morning and I agonized. I really wanted a donut. Actually, I wanted 2 donuts. I didn't buy a donut. They were like 450 calories. totally crazy. And so I've been thinking about donuts all day. So my question is actually going to be about donuts. There were 15 donuts. That's a lot of donuts. Do the math on calories there. And there were 2 students who were going to go on a donut eating binge. How many would they get each? Well, in this case, it would make sense to say 17.5 donuts or sorry, thank you for that. 7.5 donuts, or you know what, in this case, we might even just say it was 7.5. But either way, we can express our answer as the answer that was given.